Breaking news, a student and teacher stabbed at Carver Votech. What we're learning about that attack. Fiery exchanges at last night's public safety town hall, why some are questioning how the Department of Juvenile Services handles cases. An adult suspect in the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting could go back to a juvenile facility. Why critics are calling the decision dangerous.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
You got kids coming to school with weapons, knives, guns. Why is that necessary?
When I went here, it was shootings. We had school lockdowns almost every day. I don't know what they're going to do to fix it. I don't know if it's anything they can do to fix it.
Well, Fox 45 News is following breaking news out of West Baltimore. Police say a student and teacher are stabbed at Carver Vocational High School. One student was taken into custody. Now, the school system says there was a fight between students and one student pulled out what they're calling a sharp object. 2 people were cut. Another student and a teacher trying to intervene. Both victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries, and the school system says the school was placed on lockdown before dismissal. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell questioned school system about the concerns.
Did the district notify parents?
So the school was on lockdown and notifications went out to the impacted students. This incident happened fairly closely to when schools released, so parents were on their way.
Well, this isn't the first violent incident at Carver. Back in October, 3 teens were shot outside that school. Earlier this month, the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office announced indictments against one of the teens and his parents. Police say the parents of that teen went to Carver with their son and helped him assault another teen. Now, this was the topic of last night's town hall.
But it is hard when you are trying to grasp an immediate situation, such as the shooting at Carver High School, where there was a juvenile who was involved, who picked up a gun that was part of the shooting, and he was not detained, Schiraldi. So I don't know where the policy standpoint is of if there's a gun involved, they are detained, because time after time they are not.
This is a developing situation. Stay with Fox 45 News for the latest updates on air and online. You can find all of our coverage on foxbaltimore.com. Thank you for staying with Fox 45 News. I'm Kai Jackson. We have team coverage of the juvenile crime crisis. In just a few minutes, Rebecca Pryor joins us with the aftermath of one judge's decision to hold an adult suspect in a juvenile facility. First, Mackenzie Frost joins us with the latest debate over how the Department of Juvenile Services handles cases after last night's town hall got heated.
The tense back and forth between the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services and a prosecutor really remains one of the biggest takeaways from a town hall in Baltimore City Monday night. And it's clear the only thing that we know right now is that 2 big key players in this juvenile crime conversation are not on the same page.
With that, I want to hand it over.
From the beginning of a juvenile crime town hall in Baltimore City, the frustrations on full display.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because, and this is from 22.
Yeah, and you're going to see the next one in less than a month. I'd like to see some data from you, though. I'm not really hearing too much data from your office.
A fiery exchange between DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi and the Deputy Division Chief for Juveniles in the City State's Attorney's Office, Kate Rosenblatt, highlighting the lack of clear policy on what to do with kids at intake, especially when guns are involved. A woman in the audience telling Schiraldi her teenager was robbed at gunpoint in September in the middle of the afternoon.
Gun cases should come to us when they do. If the police bring a gun case to us, which they can't divert, so they're bringing them to us, we detain them till they see the judge the next day, and the judge makes his or her own decision.
The woman says the suspect was not detained, adding she supports programs and services for young people and their families, but right now, she says the current system is not working.
I'm not opposed to funding for that. I just know that I also know kids that are laughing at the cops. when they arrest them.
The state's attorney's office handing out flyers detailing juvenile crime data. In 2023, 625 juvenile cases charged by Baltimore City's town prosecutor's office, including 279 stolen car cases, 142 handgun-related cases, 126 robbery-related cases, but that's not all.
It was noted that there's 189 cases, I guess, waiting to be referred to the district attorney's office, state's attorney's office.
Secretary Schiraldi appeared blindsided by that data point.
There are 189 cases we know are out there and that may be forwarded to our office at some time.
We just heard about 189 cases which were important enough to put on that piece of paper, but which have never come to my attention from the state's attorney's office. So is this just important to say here in front of cameras? Or if we want it to be resolved, is it something that should have been brought to me?
And after the meeting, Secretary Schiraldi, we tried catching up with him to talk about the data debate. Secretary Schiraldi, why won't you answer questions? But the secretary and his staffer scurrying out the side door, not taking our questions. Meanwhile, Senate President Bill Ferguson addressing our questions.
I'm frustrated.
Saying DJS isn't working, especially when you have two agencies on completely different pages about the data and what's happening with juvenile offenders. Where's the reality in this conversation?
It's the right question. It's the question I've been asking for the last year. The challenge is probably everyone's a little bit right and everyone's a little bit wrong. It is absolutely my commitment that people will be around the table to figure this out. We can't continue like this.
The solution remains elusive, with lawmakers pledging to craft policy to address concerns. It's not clear what it will look like come January. Senator Ferguson says he wants to make sure that DJS is following the appropriate policies and protocols, but that's something he says that cannot be done legislatively. Instead, it'll come down to using budget authority. We'll have to wait and see if DJS's budget is adjusted to ensure policies are followed. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
DJS Secretary Schiraldi believes people shouldn't be placed in the adult prison system until they turn 25, since their brains aren't fully developed. Governor Wes Moore calls Schiraldi a reformer. Others, however, say his views make Maryland less safe.
You're basically saying up until the age of 25, which is what he wants to do, you get a free ride.
Unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
Fox 45 News invites you to join us for a Your Voice, Your Future Public Safety Town Hall. City Councilman Eric Costello and candidate for Mayor Sheila Dixon will be on our panel. That takes place Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. at Leadenhall Baptist Church. Fallout continues after a judge's controversial decision to house an adult suspect in the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting in a juvenile facility. Despite his age and the seriousness of his alleged crimes, a new ruling could place 18-year-old Tristan Jackson back under DJS supervision. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the controversy.
By placing Jackson back under DJS supervision, it gives DJS the authority to decide where or if Jackson will be detained. As word spreads of Judge Charles Bloomquist's decision to house an adult offender in a juvenile facility.
Why in the world would he put him into a juvenile detention facility?
Debate over the decision, the talk of Baltimore's talk radio.
He's basically made adult decisions. He should be treated like an adult.
And amongst local attorneys sharing their shock.
It is unheard of. It is highly unusual for something like this to occur.
It would be extremely rare, no doubt.
At 18 years old, Tristan Jackson is legally an adult accused of 57 counts of attempted murder and weapons charges in connection to the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting. Police claiming Jackson was caught on CCTV cameras spraying 5 rounds in the direction of 7 unknown individuals who were fleeing. Following his August arrest, a judge deeming Jackson a danger to the community, holding him without bond in an adult facility. Last Friday, Judge Bloomquist approving a motion to move Jackson to a juvenile facility.
Legally speaking, minors are minors and adults are adults. It just doesn't seem to follow the logical course of where most cases track.
Legal experts also questioning if the transfer could allow Jackson to walk free. Due to capacity constraints, there are often long wait times for open beds inside DJS detention centers. Due to PREA regulations, which prevent adults from being housed with juveniles, there's a chance that at 6'5", 210 pounds, Jackson could be released from custody and instead placed on a DJS ankle monitor while he awaits his adult trial.
There is a very realistic possibility that the Department of Juvenile Services is not going to be able to place Mr. Jackson in a facility that will ensure the safety of the other children that are housed in the very same facility.
When they get past that, 17 and 6 month sort of window, they're sort of moving them and looking for other placements for them, putting them on electronic monitoring.
This is police claim Jackson's DJS ankle monitor from a prior gun offense is what they used to track Jackson to the scene of the Brooklyn home shooting.
He's arguably a very dangerous person.
Concerns echoed in a statement from the city state's attorney's office, writing in part, quote, "As it stands, DJS does not consider public safety when determining whether a youth should be detained, and we fear the possibility that DJS will allow him to be released into the community, even though a judge has already found him to be a threat to the community." Fox 45 sending questions to DJS yesterday and again today, asking, will Jackson remain detained until his trial? And would housing an adult in a juvenile detention center be a violation of PREA? As of News Time tonight, no response. Now, an administrative judge still needs to approve the DJS transfer. Today, I sent questions to the Maryland judiciary asking when or if that will happen, but they declined to comment. Reporting in the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Yet another iconic American brand sold to a foreign country. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at this growing trend.
All right, the wind gusts powerful today, finally letting up, but the wind chill factor still dropping sharply out there. We talk about how cold things get into the morning hours and what you can expect into Christmas. It's all straight ahead on Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Tonight, there are shockwaves following the sale of one of the largest and most iconic American companies to another country. Critics are questioning what that could mean for the American economy and national security. Sinclair national correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
It's part of its name and its deep-rooted history.
Since 1901, our products and the people who made them have been embedded in American life.
So the $14 billion sale of U.S. steel, started by J.P. Morgan and Andrew Carnegie, among others, to the Japanese company Nippon Steel, was met with swift backlash.
It's absolutely outrageous that they have sold themselves to a foreign nation and a company. Can't do that. Steel is always about security.
While it will keep its headquarters in Pittsburgh, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Missouri's Josh Hawley writing a letter to the Treasury Department, warning of dire implications for the industrial base of the United States, adding the transaction was not made with U.S. national security in mind.
See you again.
While Japan is one of the United States' closest allies, this sale is just the latest on a growing list of iconic American brands being bought by a foreign entity. Even one of the big three U.S. automakers, Chrysler, is now owned by Stellantis, a company based in the Netherlands. Anheuser-Busch was sold to the Belgian company InBev, and Smithfield Pork, started in Virginia in the 1930s, is now owned by China, which also owns nearly 350,000 acres of U.S. farmland, less than 1% of foreign-held land, but still very concerning for many.
There are people who are tied to the Communist Party of China, who is an adversary of ours, actually purchasing property. It could be a coincidence that some of the properties they've purchased are really close to some of our military installations, but we want to make sure that we're not even in the position where there's a real risk.
China's scooping up of land and businesses and its increased competition on electric cars has brought up memories for some of the political and economic tensions the United States had with Japan in the 1980s. Tensions expected to stick around for the foreseeable future. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
At least 4 people are dead after a massive storm rocks the East Coast. It caused flooding and power outages as well. 3 people were killed in South Carolina, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. A 4th person died in the state of Maine after being hit by a tree.
While up on their roof trying to remove that tree, a second portion of a rather large pine tree had come down, has struck the gentleman.
Well, millions of residents were on flood watch, and some 600,000 didn't have power this morning. The National Weather Service says the heavy rain and flooding could impact holiday travel. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg issued a warning.
We may see some bad weather impacting travel around Christmas and New Year's.
This comes almost a year after the massive flight cancellations across the country last Christmas, which impacted thousands of travelers. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart has a look at your holiday forecast. Wyatt?
All right, yeah, and Kai, I mean, obviously there has been some strong weather here locally. Talking about the wind today and yesterday, talking about the heavy rain coming out of the weekend. Quiet now. We still have quite a bit of wind out there, but nothing on radar, and the clouds beginning to break up as well. We've now got a clear sky out of PWI. Winds are west, still west-northwest, we'll say. 5 to 10, gusting into the 15 to 20 range. And these numbers continue to fall pretty sharply tonight, as we're already down close to freezing in many spots, and we still have many more hours to see that mercury drop. So the northwesterly wind flow was the big change today. I mean, we had some peak gusts today, well up 30+ miles per hour. Not as strong as yesterday's winds, which were like pushing 50 miles per hour, but this was a much colder wind, had more of a northern vector to it. And so, yeah, the gates were open to the Canadian prairies basically today, and we felt it here across the Baltimore area, especially outside for any length of time. Cold now, wind chill factors around 30, 25 in Gaithersburg, 26 in Westminster. That's the real field temperature. And, you know, look, air temps are going to keep dropping tonight. But I will say this, the winds will correspondingly be dropping off. So actually, first thing out the door in the morning, I think you're going to notice it's very, very cold as the big chill settles in, but it won't necessarily feel as cold. You're not going to be getting cut up by the wind out there, so that's going to be a nice change. Clear and dry for several days to come, that's nice, but winter-like temperatures, at least until we get closer to actually Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Flurry action, we had it across the state today. Even Baltimore saw a few flakes fly. Otherwise, cold, windy conditions out ahead of that Canadian high pressure cell. This is going to keep moving east and settling in. The pressure gradient winds will die off as we get in the center of that high pressure bubble, but that's also the core of the coldest air, so the chill certainly settling into Maryland as well. We bounce back a little bit on Thursday, and we'll get another cold front coming through, drop us back down for a day or two starting out the weekend. So really a temperature forecast here for the most part. No precipitation anywhere in the close outlook, but those numbers around 30 tomorrow morning, only into the mid-40s tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, on the cold side, to say the least. Again, a little milder on Thursday. And then those temperatures are going to set to climb again as we go into Sunday. We're going to talk much more about the Christmas forecasting detail with your 10-day setup. It's coming up.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
The lights are slow to come back on in Maine, where over 400,000 homes and businesses lost power in Monday's storm. Rivers like this in Rhode Island, as well as many others across New England, are still running very high. A thick but isolated fog blanketed a valley near Portland, Oregon, and this nighttime photo of a wildfire comes from Talladega County, Alabama.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at how Christians in Gaza are being impacted by the Israel-Hamas war.
The death toll in Gaza is nearing 20,000 Palestinians with no end in sight to the deadly months-long conflict. Meanwhile, many in America worry about the safety of their families and loved ones in Gaza. The National Desk, Janae Bowens, has one woman's emotional story.
Every day, Fifi Saba wonders if her family members in Gaza are alive as the fighting between Israel and Hamas continues.
I wait for 24 hours and sometimes 72 hours to get a text message just literally saying we're alive.
She didn't want to share any pictures of them because she feared retribution.
We have to come up with new words for what's happening in Gaza. Really, because none of the words in English that I know can describe how I feel.
Her loved ones are taking refuge inside the Holy Family Parish. The IDF confirms an operation near another church in the area, but denies having anything to do with the Latin Patriarch cuts of Jerusalem's account that 2 women died and 7 more people were injured. The IDF says protecting sensitive sites is a priority and is currently reviewing what happened. Still, the concern exists for Christians in Gaza.
Churches, schools, hospitals, bakeries, libraries. So, no place is safe in Gaza.
All of this at a time when the White House is pressing for the war to be scaled back to protect civilians.
It is in the interest of both Israelis and Palestinians to move forward toward 2 states, living side by side in mutual security.
Fifi is just hoping her loved ones make it through the night.
It's the bare minimum, and it's a little too late to ask for it, but I demand a ceasefire.
Christians are a minority in Gaza, with around 1,000 or so living there, so they're concerned about what could happen next. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
All right, let's start off with a look at that 10-day forecast. And you can see it is going to be a crisp scenario tomorrow, 48 there into the day on Thursday, a little milder 50, but where we see another cold shot coming in Friday that drops us back down, basically feeling winter-like next several days. However, as we look to that important Christmas Eve into Christmas Day time frame, that's where the numbers look to be a little more pleasant. I need to shift my Santa and Christmas tree over on this one, but you can see the numbers looking a little milder out there as we go into Christmas, and importantly, clear travel weather.
All right, Wyatt, thank you. Well, finally tonight, Santa Claus is trading in his sleigh for a more modern ride. Santa arrived by helicopter today at Johns Hopkins Children's Center to bring kids some holiday cheer. Good St. Nick landed up on the rooftop, pretty high up, before heading into the hospital, not through the chimney though, to deliver presents and smiles. Well, that's all for us on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock tonight. Family Feud is next. We'll see you again tonight at 10 o'clock. Thank you.